There are many meal delivery services out there. What sets our sponsor, Cook Unity, apart is that it's the first ever collective of award-winning chefs delivering locally sourced culinary marvels to your door every week. Browse the menu by protein, chef, cuisine, or dietary need to personalize your own menu and find new favorites. Seasonal collections are updated weekly, and new chefs are always joining the team. So mealtime will never be boring. No cleanup or meal planning. Meals delivered, fully cooked, ready to heat and eat in as little as 5 minutes. Enjoy restaurant quality meals for a fraction of the price. Subscriptions start as low as $11 a meal. Go to cookunity.com/Pakman free or enter code Pakman free before checkout for free premium meals for life. The link is in the description. We have quite a show for you today. The MAGA Civil War is no longer a metaphor or a theory. It is starting to rack up a body count, for lack of a better term. Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani meet, and Trump just gushes over him, shrugs off being called a fascist, and nukes Elise Stefanik's entire jihadist narrative in a move that might even destroy her gubernatorial campaign. We'll get to that. And then one of the loudest MAGA warriors in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's resigning. She is done with Congress and is immediately rebranded by Trump Marjorie Taylor Brown. We'll talk about what the resignation means and so much more. And then the money lies. We're going to hear from Brooke Rollins and Scott Bessent and a lot of these other administration tools in their impossible attempt to justify the economic data that is and sometimes is not coming out from this administration. I'll give you a preview. They're not doing it particularly well. And then DOGE, which was going to save us money by rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, has been quietly shut down to save money. I thought it being open is what saved money. And then Elon Musk turns on a feature on Twitter that wreaks complete and total havoc. All of that and more on today's show. It's Thanksgiving week. It is our final few days of our fundraiser for Feeding America. We have raised over $15,000 already. I'll tell you how you can get in on the action. What a program we have for you. Let's record this one, as I like to say. I have some of the funniest video I have ever seen. After trading insults like fascist and communist and all of this stuff, New York City's mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani went to Washington, D.C. to meet with Donald Trump. And Trump was just gushing. Now, I'm going to tell you up front as we start to look at some of the video clips. I'm not sure whether Trump is this easy to manipulate or whether Trump is this good at manipulating others, or whether Trump is just impressed by articulate men who speak confidently. I don't know the answer. I want to try to figure it out with you. But MAGA is furious that Trump and Mamdani got along so well. Here are some of the key moments that I want to talk about with you. The first is reporters know how to stir up controversy. And a reporter asks Mamdani, do you still believe Trump is a fascist? Mamdani tries to sort of equivocate in a respectful manner in the home of the president. And Trump goes, you can just say yes. Just it's easier if you go, yeah, I think he's a fascist.
I want to ask the mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing...
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it's fine. Now, there's a couple things going on here. I don't know that Trump really knows what it means to be a fascist. I think in some sense, Trump believes that fascism is sort of like, it's like saying someone's a constitutional conservative. Oh, you're a fascist. It doesn't have specific meaning that is negative and antisocial and destructive. I don't know. We don't really know what Trump knows about any of these terms. And it's possible that Trump simply doesn't think that being a fascist is that bad of a thing. I mean, at the end of the day, he's also suggested he doesn't think being a dictator is that bad of a thing. And he loves dictators. But what an unusual exchange. And we're going to get to what are potentially the longer term political implications of this. But the most incredible part is Trump just seemed convinced by Mamdani, or Trump is the master manipulator here. And by endearing himself with Mamdani, thinks that he is going to later be able to get who knows what. But Trump was asked, would you be comfortable living in New York City under Zoran Mamdani's mayoral administration? And Trump goes, I would, after all of that about how the city will be destroyed.
New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you
Wow.
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York. And I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
Wow. Now, the after the meeting thing is important. And speculation has run completely rampant, and we just don't know the answer. And what I mean by that is the following. Is it this is just speculation from the internet. You read the comments, you see the reactions from the political class and others. Is it possible that Mamdani got Trump to say such favorable things by just being charming and ingratiating himself with Donald Trump? Sure. Is it possible that Mamdani got Trump to like him by lying about his intentions? Probably not, right? I mean, Mamdani, for better or worse, whether you like or dislike any of his policies, he doesn't really seem to hedge on them depending on the audience he's in front of. So I don't think that's the explanation. Is it possible that this is some calculated thing by Trump? Or is it possible that politics just makes strange bedfellows and that right now they are choosing to get along? I think that's the most likely explanation, quite frankly. But of course, this does seem to really call into question all of the very aggressive posturing about how if you support Mamdani, Trump is the Antichrist. And if you support Trump, Mamdani is the Antichrist. And this is potentially going to be a problem for some Trump-aligned people like Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who's now running for governor of New York. Trump was asked, Elise Stefanik said, Mamdani is a jihadist. Do you believe that this is a jihadist? And Trump goes, no, I don't, which certainly is not helpful to Elise Stefanik's campaign in hilarious fashion.
Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zoran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaigin.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person,
Isn't
but
that a kind of label?
you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again, and I can say again because New York was great.
The other speculation here is that could Trump be calculating that the most damage he could do to Mamdani is by saying he likes him and that he doesn't think his ideas are that bad and he doesn't think his ideas or that his ideology is that dangerous. In other words, could it be that Trump has decided the people that like him really hate me? And if I go, this guy's kind of cool, they will all of a sudden go, wait a second. If Trump likes him, then there must be a problem. I'm not suggesting this is, but this is so weird that these are the sort of speculations that it is bringing up. Look at Trump just gushing here, just absolutely gushing over Mamdani.
Well, look, I hope they have great leaders. This is a man that right now I think is focused on New York City. I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him, but I really think he has a chance to do a great job. But I'll let you answer that. You consider yourself the leader of the Democrats. I think it's more appropriate for him.
I consider myself the next mayor of New York City, and I keep my horizons firmly on New York City, and I appreciate the meeting with the president, which focused again on the 5 boroughs and whether New Yorkers could afford to live there.
By the way, being the mayor of New York City is a big deal. Absolutely. I always said, one of the things I would love to be someday is the mayor of New York City. Being the mayor of New York, and especially now, because I think you're at really a turning point, one way or the other. It could go great, or it can go in a different direction. And I think you really have a chance to make it great.
Wow.
Mr. President.
Look at that. Look at that. What an incredible circumstance and situation. And everyone will make of it what they will. But one really funny thing, one meeting with Mamdani, next thing you know, Trump comes out wearing a scarf and looking like he's about to go to a poetry slam in the Village. Take a look at this. Take a look at Trump's drip.
We're going to Andrews Air Force Base to do some work, especially for our great Air Force.
All right. Anyway, so what's my genuine analysis here? Is it Trump who was the master manipulator in this meeting? Is it Mamdani who was the master manipulator? I don't think Trump gives a damn about any of this, right? I mean, the inflation, cost of living in New York, the city, Republicans. I believe Trump loves attention, Trump loves drama, and he loves himself. And the most appealing thing to Trump is let's get people to come to me, and then we'll glad hand, and then I will sort of give some kind of blessing, and the cameras are in here and everybody. I think that that's all that this is about. If you went to Trump and you said, do you think that the meeting went well because you really agreed with him on his perspective as to how to lower the cost of living by looking at housing? No, I don't think Trump gives two you-know-whats. This has always been about attention, and Trump got attention, and he's sort of willing to say whatever. And next week on Truth Social, if he has to completely reverse, he will. A bomb went off in the heart of the MAGA movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she is resigning from Congress effective January 5th, 2026. She will be leaving one day before the 5-year anniversary of the January 6th riots. She put out a video on X. It's an almost 11-minute video. I'm not going to play the entire thing for you, but I just will give you a little bit of a sense of the texture of the video, and then we will go to her resignation statement.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political...
Okay. So she builds this story up about how the system is failing so many people. And ultimately she says, I will be resigning. She also put out an official statement of it's 4 pages. She put it out on all of her various platforms. And she again goes through her complaints and her concerns and her grievances. And then ultimately on the last page, she says, until then, I'm going back to the people I love, to live life to the fullest as I always have, and look forward to a new path ahead. I will be resigning from office with my last day being January 5, 2026. Now, Trump had 2 responses. One response came via Truth Social, where Trump said, quote, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of plummeting poll numbers and not wanting to face a primary challenger with a strong Trump endorsement where she would have no chance of winning, has decided to call it quits. Her relationship with the worst Republican congressman in decades, Tom Massey of Kentucky, also known as Rand Paul Jr., because he votes against the Republican Party and really good legislation, did not help her. For some reason, primarily that I refused to return her never-ending barrage of phone calls, Marjorie went bad. Nevertheless, I will always appreciate Marjorie and thank her for her service to our country. Trump then, on video, asked about this, and he said the following, a much more tempered opinion.
Are you willing to forgive Congresswoman Taylor Greene?
Forgive for what? No, I just disagreed with her philosophy. She started backing perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history, just stupid person named Massey. And I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person. Okay, thank you very much.
So listen, the biggest disappointment here is not seeing, could Marjorie Taylor Greene win with Trump endorsing a primary challenger? Last week we said one of the most interesting things will be to see is the outcome different than it was, for example, for Liz Cheney. When Donald Trump did an attack of Liz Cheney and endorsed Cheney's primary opponent in Wyoming for her congressional seat, Cheney got crushed. And that was really the height of Trump's power within MAGA and within the Republican Party. So it would have been fascinating to see in 2026 a seemingly diminished Trump out of energy with limited influence. Could Marjorie Taylor Greene just win anyway? And in fact, the risk was greater to Trump. Listen, if Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to get reelected in 2026 and lost a primary challenge, all right, she loses. But the asymmetrical risk would have been, imagine that Trump goes scorched earth on Marjorie Taylor Greene and she still wins her primary in Georgia in 2026. And whoever Trump endorses doesn't win. In a Republican primary, no doubt. That would have been really, really bad for Donald Trump. We're not going to get to see that because Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning. Now, there's a bunch of other important implications here. Marjorie Taylor Greene's district is now going to require a special election. This is going to, at least for a period of time, it's going to weaken the very narrow Republican majority in the House. So we've been talking about Democrats taking the House back in 2026, being able to cut Trump's agenda just immediately overnight. That's it. You're getting nothing that requires congressional votes if Democrats take the House in 2026. We now are going to have sort of a lead up or a preview to that, during which Republicans will be even less able to lose any votes in the House of Representatives because their margin will be even smaller. So that's going to be interesting. Number two, even though over time, the affiliation with MAGA of Marjorie Taylor Greene has diminished, there's no question of that, we are going to see what is the effect of such a major MAGA figure. This is not like, Rand Paul has been what we might call more of a reluctant Trump supporter for a long time. So when Rand Paul goes, actually what Trump is doing isn't constitutional, or do we still care about due process in this country? It's not the biggest surprise. It's not really shaking to MAGA in that way. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been a very strong MAGA for years. And what will be the effect on voters and donors of seeing such a major MAGA figure say, that is it for me? And then there is the question of future ambitions and what is Marjorie Taylor Greene planning on doing. She is hinting in her resignation video that she still plans to be involved in political activity. There is this, we know that she wanted to run for Senate against John Ossoff, and she was told not to by Trump and the Trump White House because they believed she had no shot. And I think that that's probably true. John Ossoff is an excellent senator and very popular. She may still want to run for Senate. She may have ambitions for a gubernatorial run. A lot of my friends have been texting me over the weekend saying she's clearly going to try to run for president. No matter what, the optics of this are terrible, terrible for Donald Trump's control of this movement. So the MAGA civil war is very real. It's intensifying. It's bigger than Marjorie Taylor Greene. And it is about a regime of loyalty, fear, and discipline, which is what Trump demands. And when a loud defender suddenly turns on you, how does Trump react? And the message that's being sent is, if you become a dissident from inside the movement, you lose everything. You lose support. Your future is in question. And you even, I guess you could say, you even end up losing your seat. Although we can't yet say for sure that she was pushed out by losing Trump's support versus she decided she's sick of this crap. This is going to reverberate through 2026. It may even affect 2028. So we're going to keep an eye on it, and we will take a very quick break and be right back. Skip the hassle of planning meals or cleaning up. Our sponsor, Cook Unity, brings a unique twist to meal delivery by being the first collective of award-winning chefs offering locally sourced dishes straight to your doorstep every week. Each meal is fully cooked, ready to eat after only 5 minutes of heating. One of the most memorable meals I've had from Cook Unity is the chicken enchiladas suizas from Chef Santiago Lopez from Mexico. The tender chicken wrapped in corn tortillas with a tangy green mole made with cream cheese and pickled onions went so well with rice. Incredible flavor, satisfying. And with Cook Unity, you get restaurant quality meals without the hefty price tag, with subscriptions starting at just $11 a meal. You can customize the menu to match your preferences. You can explore options by chef, cuisine, protein, dietary needs. And with fresh seasonal selections added weekly, new chefs always joining Cook Unity, there is always something new and exciting to try. Cook Unity's roster of award-winning chefs includes Food Network alums, James Beard Award winners, acclaimed restaurateurs balancing flavor and nutrition with these small batch meals sent fresh, not frozen. Go to cookunity.com/Pakman free or enter code Pakman free before checkout for free premium meals for life. The link is in the description. I've been using my Ridge wallet for years, long before they became a sponsor. It is still one of my favorite everyday items. It's slim, it fits in my front pocket, it'll hold 12 cards plus cash without a bulky mess or leather that wears down. And the Ridge 2.0 is even better, lighter, more modular. The new design feels premium. The straps and clips are upgraded, and there's optional AirTag attachments if you want them. And the Built for Life warranty that comes with every wallet has you covered if it's ever damaged, lost, or stolen. Ridge goes way beyond wallets. They have power banks that are small and charge everything, your phone, laptop, earbuds, everything all at once. And Ridge luggage is durable, weatherproof, and built for real travel, not just for show. Right now, it's their biggest sale of the year, the perfect time to get something for yourself or as a holiday gift for somebody else. And you will get up to 47% off when you go to ridge.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. This is maybe the most humiliating headline for this administration so far. Donald Trump has canceled DOGE. He has ended his signature waste, fraud, and abuse program in order to save money. Think about what that means for a moment. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I know many of you have probably forgotten about it because it's been completely failed and has not achieved any of the things it supposedly was going to achieve. Trump said DOGE is going to clean up Washington. It's going to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. We'll cut billions and it'll delete mountains of bureaucracy. And it's just going to be so awesome. It turns out it was a waste of money and it was costing more than what it supposedly was able to save. So they have quietly shut it down without even acknowledging this until reporters said, look, this thing seems to be gone. What is going on here? It's like those fuel additives. I don't know if you remember, when I was younger, some of my friends would go, oh, we got to go to AutoZone and get this thing you add to your fuel tank. It's $10, but it'll save you money because it improves gas mileage. So you've got to buy the additive, but then you save money on gas. And then it turns out it didn't really work. So you go, I guess I'll stop buying the fuel additive because it's not really saving me any money. That is what ultimately happened with DOGE here. Now, the official statement from inside the administration is simply, it doesn't exist. It's gone. That's from the Office of Personnel Management. Asked about the status of DOGE, they're essentially saying, don't know anything about it. Not a thing, doesn't exist. Now, the primary question I go back to, aside from the money part, is where are all of the consequences for the fraud that they found. Fraud is a crime. They talk about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. And yet we have seen no one, not a single person face consequences of any kind, never mind an indictment, for the fraudulent nature of what they were doing that DOGE turned up. Now, of course, we all know it's bullshit. They talk about tens of billions saved and all of that. They never really found proof, no public accounting. There were statistical errors where they said, we just found billions in savings, but really they meant millions. And then it turns out that even the millions were actually a program that hadn't even started yet, or that had already been cut under Joe Biden or whatever else the case is. Nothing anyone could verify was ever achieved by DOGE. It was branding, it was Elon Musk, it was tweets. And meanwhile, the actual government work ended up being handed back to the regular agencies that were doing it after DOGE fizzled out. And reportedly, a bunch of DOGE employees ended up being moved to other roles in the administration, and a whole bunch of them just lost their jobs. Some got side projects, Trump's National Design Studio, another one of these just moronic things. They need to beautify government websites. If that doesn't sound like waste, God, guys, give me a break. And then when you look into the Elon Musk angle of the entire thing, it's kind of even worse, because remember that DOGE was built around Elon. Elon promoted it. He posed with props, and he says he has a mandate to delete regulations. And then his relationship with Trump completely blows up. He leaves Washington. And of course, DOGE just starts to kind of evaporate at the exact same time. And people talk about DOGE in the past tense. DOGE did what it set out to do. DOGE was able to accomplish what did they call it? An efficiency mandate or something like that. And what they didn't want to just say out loud was, the project is over. So this is a remarkable humiliation. Trump designed an agency that was going to increase government efficiency by saving money. They were going to run it like a business. They initially put two people in charge of it instead of one. Remember when it was Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy? And it was clear that Vivek Ramaswamy was really doing nothing and it was just Elon. So Vivek quietly went away. And now it's being dissolved for being what we said it was from the beginning, extremely inefficient. They've created the Department of Fixing Leaks, and they didn't find any leaks other than inside their own department. That's the equivalent of what went on here. And now you've got the White House kind of pretending that the entire thing never happened. Hyped, bragged about, chainsaws on stage with Elon, the entire thing. Now they want it wiped from memory. So Trump has suffered a lot of public humiliations, every single foreign trip, every single speech, every single signing ceremony in the Oval Office. It's a lot. But in a sense, this was going to be the trademark, hallmark, signature achievement of Trump's second term. It accomplished nothing, and they wanted it to quietly go away. So the program to clean up DC exposed that what really needs to be cleaned up was the program to clean up DC itself. It's like it became the punchline of its own joke, and now it goes to wherever these ideas go, never to be heard from again. Donald Trump suffered an irreversible collapse on his own Truth Social. It went overnight. There is both the tone and there is the substance. And I want to look at a little bit of both. First of all, as far as the tone goes, Trump just posting over and over again AI-generated images of himself looking very strong, time to obliterate the deep state, nothing can stop what is coming. Just a weird blend of conspiracy nonsense combined with weird attacks and user-generated content interspersed with advertisements for ivermectin, of all things. So like the optics of this are just terrible. Trump's up all night. He's posting, some of this stuff is posted at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., just the strangest times of the night. He's up all night. Okay, then we get to the substance. I want to remind you, as part of this posting spree, Trump did post this attack message about Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, where he said, quote, Marjorie Taylor Brown, because of plummeting poll numbers and not wanting to face a primary challenger with a strong Trump endorsement, has decided to call it quits. Her relationship with the worst Republican congressman in decades, Tom Massey, also known as Rand Paul Jr., because he votes against Republican Party legislation, didn't help her. For some reason, primarily that I refused to return her never-ending barrage of phone calls, Marjorie went bad. Okay, so Trump with his anti-Marjorie Taylor Greene post. Then Trump again. I have just gotten the highest poll numbers of my political career. While my great work on the economy has not yet been fully appreciated, yeah, that's an understatement, it will be. Things are really rockin'. Stopping wars and foreign relations seems to be a strong suit. Also great, the border and stopping crime. I predict that the economy and the already highest stock market ever and prices coming down sharply from the Biden disaster will soon be at the top of the list, make America great again. None of that is true. Trump has the worst approval rating of either of his terms today. You go back to the moment where Trump came down the golden escalator, as he likes to say. His approval is the lowest it has ever been today. A lot of the accomplishments of stopping wars that Trump touts aren't real. Prices have not come down. The stock market is doing okay, although it's been shaky lately. But basically, none of this is true. Trump then engaging caps lock and continuing. The traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't and never will be. It was sedition at the highest level, and sedition is a major crime. There can be no other interpretation of what they said. Well, there is another interpretation. What Trump is referring to is the Democratic lawmakers who said, if you are in the armed forces, it is your responsibility to refuse to follow unlawful orders, no matter who they come from, implying even if they come from Donald Trump. That is the law. If you believe in law and order and following the law, then what those Democratic lawmakers said is correct and true, and what Donald Trump said is not. That's the reality. That's where we find ourselves today. Trump continuing on social media. Many great legal scholars agree that the Democrat traitors that told the military to disobey my orders as president have committed a crime of serious proportion. This is not true. Stating the law is not a crime. Saying, look at what the MJ says, the code of UCMJ, Code of Military Justice. Look at what it says. That saying I was just following orders is not an acceptable excuse or explanation, and that you have a duty to refuse to follow unlawful orders. It's like saying, hey, the speed limit is 55 here. If you go faster, you might get a ticket. That's a crime. What are we talking about here? And then finally, Trump, desperate to claim that the Republican Party is united, even though it isn't. He says, quote, the Republican Party has never been so united as it is right now. Other than Rand Paul Jr., Massey, Marjorie Taylor Brown, and a couple of other lowlifes, and other than the fact that many want the election-threatening filibuster terminated, the Dems will do it in the first minute of their first chance. And some don't. There is great spirit and cohesion. Plus, the Republican Party is much bigger than it was when I announced in 2015 or ever was before. Many millions more members. Well, remember, the population keeps going up in the United States. That's not the biggest accomplishment, really. Trump finalizing this by saying, we now have the strongest border ever, biggest tax cuts, the best economy, the highest stock market, and so much more. But the best is yet to come. Vote Republican. Trump is in a panic. He knows he is at serious risk of losing the House in 26. We need to make sure that he does. We have to be part of that. If we stay home, it won't happen, but we have time for that. We're now about 11 months from that election. But Trump is terrified because he is thinking of legacy. And he knows if Republicans lose the House next November, Trump is an even lamer duck instantly than he is today. In the midst of a very strange video of Trump struggling to walk, a clinical psychologist who has studied Trump for years is now making a stunning prediction, which is that he does not believe Trump will make it to the end of this presidential term compos mentis, meaning mentally competent. Now, here is the relevant video. This is a video of Trump walking outside the White House, and he almost seems to fall down. He doesn't look stable. This is as bad as we have seen Trump's gait ever. That's GAIT. It is unusual. This is not exactly the video you would expect of a guy who just had a perfect medical exam, including the best MRI doctors have ever seen, despite not knowing what part of the body they were looking at and what the results were, or what they were looking to find out by looking at the MRI. This is a concerning video of Donald Trump walking. Now, we then get to the professional assessment of Dr. John Gardner. Dr. John Gardner, who's been on this show before, spoke to Times Radio, and he lays out some pretty terrifying stuff. What John Gardner lays out is that Trump already has the strongest, most extreme version of a personality disorder, malignant narcissism. Narcissism, psychopathy, paranoia, sadism, all together. This is the framework that was originally used to understand authoritarian leaders in the past. And Dr. Gardner says he recognized this a decade ago, but that is only the first part. Part two are the signs of what Dr. John Gardner says is clear cognitive decline. And what Dr. Gardner pointed out is Trump was given, if we believe Trump is regularly being given cognitive tests and an MRI. And Trump doesn't really know why. And what Dr. Gardner explains is that you never, as a professional, order these things unless you have a suspicion of something. You don't just routinely give cognitive tests. You don't do an MRI just for kicks. And then he lays out the symptoms, which we all see publicly. Trump's vocabulary diminishing dramatically, unfinished, disconnected sentences, jumping from one topic to another, seemingly with no rhyme or reason, mixing up names and countries, extraordinary impulsivity, memory gaps, wandering and disorientation, this particular unusual gait that also includes Trump leaning forward. It includes Trump dragging a foot. It includes Trump, again, in this video that we just looked at, looking extraordinarily unstable. And Dr. Gardner also says that Trump is regularly producing these phonemic paraphasias. These are failed attempts at words that you often see in people suffering from brain disorders, dementia, and other cognitive decline. This is like when Trump says South Carolina, not a typo, when he puts that on Truth Social. And Dr. Gardner says that those are concerning symptoms. Now, this starts to get even more alarming if you follow the logic of Dr. Gardner, where he says Trump met with Chuck Schumer and a really nice man he brought with him. The nice man was Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader. Trump deals with him all the time. Is Trump forgetting Hakeem Jeffries' name, or is he not recognizing someone who should be familiar? He talks about the word salad, stories with no structure and tangents that go nowhere and sentences with no connection to each other whatsoever. That is not being tired, according to Dr. Gardner. It's not normal aging. He believes that it is a breakdown in how Trump is organizing thoughts. Now, there is also the media story, and we're going to see about talking to Dr. Gardner. The media keeps pretending everything's fine, right? They'll pick out an isolated line from a 6-minute ramble and call it a headline as if the rest of the 6 minutes didn't happen and Trump was coherent. But we all see what is going on. The other red flag from this interview with Dr. Gardner is he's warning that as Trump becomes more impaired, power is going to shift to the people around Trump, exactly as we were told was happening with Joe Biden. And so that means Stephen Miller gets more power. The Project 2025 architects get more power. The extremists and the hardliners get to push their agendas while Trump kind of babbles. And so this is where we are right now. The mainstream and legacy corporate media is mostly pretending none of this is happening. We see an isolated video on MSNBC here or there, or maybe a mention of it on CNN. But for the most part, we see continued decline by all publicly measurable mechanisms and metrics, and mostly silence from legacy and corporate media. Dr. John Gartner says Trump will not be of competent mind by the end of Trump's term. Do you believe that? What do you believe is going on here? Every time you Google your name, you will probably find dozens of sites that expose your personal information. This can include phone number, home address, family details. It's just sitting there waiting to be scraped or abused. Incogni is a privacy service. They go after these sites on your behalf. They contact the data brokers. They demand your data be removed, which the brokers are legally required to do. Incogni will automatically remove your information from hundreds of the biggest and most notorious data broker sites, but you're not just limited to those. You can use Incogni's custom removal. If you find your info on a website outside of Incogni's default list, the team at Incogni will work to get that information removed. This is how you protect yourself and your family from identity theft, financial scams, harassment, even AI-powered profiling by ad companies. And Incogni's data removal process is the only one verified independently by Deloitte. This gives them a unique level of credibility. Try Incogni risk-free and get 60% off when you go to incogni.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is in the description. There is something about winter that makes warm bread and pastries at home feel nicer than ever, and that is what you get with Wild Grain. No effort or cooking. Our sponsor, Wild Grain, is the first bake from frozen subscription box for real artisanal breads, pastries, and handmade pastas, all ready in 25 minutes or less. No prep, no cleanup. Everything's made with clean ingredients and a slow fermentation process that adds depth of flavor. I recently tried the cranberry pecan rolls. Some say pecan, I say pecan. They came out with a soft center, crisp edge, and the house just smelled great. I also love their Parmesan herb biscuits. Definitely check those out. You can also customize your box. They've got gluten-free. They've got plant-based. You can send it as a gift or send a gift card for the holidays. If you're looking for the perfect way to elevate cozy nights at home during the holidays, give Wild Grain a try. Get $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life at wildgrain.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. It's really funny and kind of sad, actually, because a lot of people are falling for it, to see administration officials who simply cannot go and make a case for the economic policy of this administration based on the facts, just make stuff up. And I'm going to show you some examples of this. There's this kind of phrase in the legal world: when the facts aren't on your side, you argue process. And when the process isn't on your side, you argue facts. In the Trump administration, it's when the facts aren't on your side, you just make them up. And we heard from Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Agriculture, just repeat lie after lie after lie. And my question to you is, could this possibly work on the American people? I'm going to give you some examples of this. Here is Brooke Rollins saying what Trump is fundamentally doing is taking care of farmers with the proposed bailout and so on and so forth. But what's missing is that the reason the farmers need help is because of the very policies that Donald Trump put in place in the first place. Are the American people going to fall for this?
Farmers might get helped eventually. That hasn't happened yet, right? $15 billion is it in the works? And it's okay. So we do tariffs on one hand. That's to try to accomplish one thing, but that hurts. That has unintended consequences, maybe with farmers. So we're using this $15 billion for the. Was it a good idea? Was it positive in the end? I guess you can use some of the tariff proceeds maybe for the $15 billion for the farmers?
So a couple of quick points on that. First of all, what the president did with Liberation Day, with enacting all these tariffs back in
Imagine still saying Liberation Day with a straight face.
February, we now have dozens of new trade deals. And within Indonesia, Australia, Japan, EU, England, it's just remarkable. And a lot of these deals, people tried for 20, 25 years to get these deals. Again, under the last administration, we didn't have one new trade deal. We went from a agriculture trade surplus under Trump 1.
By the way, you know what she slips? We didn't have any new trade deals under the last administration. Did we need any? There's no rule that says you have to be making trade deals all the time. If you don't break something, you don't find yourself needing to fix it.
To a deficit, $50 billion deficit in just agriculture. So think about the effects on our farmers and our ranchers. $50 billion is a significant amount when you're growing corn or soybeans or apples or whatever you're growing. So being able to solve for that, which now we're doing, again, it's incredible. But to your point about the aid, the president always said he would take care of the farmers. They have been with him since he came down the escalator just a few blocks from here in 2015 and began this next chapter. So yes, we are looking at the aid right now. We have always said it is to solve for, to mitigate anything under these new trade negotiations.
Yeah, it's funny. She says what's happening is we might need to mitigate because of the trade negotiations. The problem isn't negotiations. The problem is the tariffs. That is what is crushing these farmers. And Trump has always said he would be there for the farmers. Well, he kind of wasn't during his first term. And then he did the same thing during his second term. And now he needs to put out a fire that he set. They then, and I like this, they then get into specifically soybeans. Let's listen.
We're selling a lot more soybeans than we were, though, a couple months ago when we first started talking about that.
That was the big problem. China went from the biggest buyer of soybeans to zero purchases of soybeans. That was the biggest issue that happened. That happened on President Trump's watch.
Well, so we have seen a decline from China buying soybeans for years. It is an important point, though, because China, just a few years ago, was buying about 65% of our soybeans from America. They have pivoted to buying a lot of Brazilian soybeans. And also the president has said, as has Secretary Bessent, that using our soybean farmers for leverage is not okay. So in the last, just a couple of weeks ago, the announcement was that China is back on to buy soybeans, 12 million metric tons this year, 25 million metric tons over the next few years. They've already put in a purchase order. We've already started shipping soybeans their way, almost 1.5 million metric tons. We have
So she is just doing a word salad. The numbers that China has conditionally agreed to purchase would only over a period of years get us back to where we were, which is about 25 million a year. The million that has been sent is under 5% of what we were selling. The fact that we've received a purchase order, this goes back to, did you pledge a donation or did you make the donation? Remember that whole controversy? This is gaslighting at the absolute top level. And then she goes, well, we do have to be patient too.
Understand this, and tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that you said in the White House, it said that China was going to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans from the United States by January. We're now just about a month and a half away from that. They have, according to the USDA report, only made two big purchases, and they total in total 332,000 metric tons. How is that pledge, if that is a real pledge, and China has not confirmed that pledge, going to be made in that?
Okay, listen very carefully now. Andrew Ross Sorkin says, we were told that the purchases this year would end up at 12 million. They're at 332,000. There's like a month and a half left. Okay, now listen to what she says.
Quick a time.
Andrew, thank you. We're actually about 1.5 million metric tons, but your point is still salient, right? That 1.5 million of 12 million, we've got a significant way to go. I know they are inking the deal this week or next week. Again, every sign is their commitment remains true, that they will indeed buy or purchase 12 million metric tons or put the order in.
They're going to put the order in. There it is. They are lying to everyone. And I feel bad because there are people genuinely affected by this stuff. They're not just the farmers, but all of the related businesses. Well, we're going to do the 12 million. We're at 330,000, but also like we're really close to signing the deal and they're going to get these soybeans soon, or they might make the purchase order. The big picture is the following. China used to buy a ton of soybeans, and it wasn't just purchase orders. They were actually buying the soybeans. The tariffs supposedly aren't part of the problem, but getting rid of the tariffs is now part of the solution. But the tariffs are no big deal. Farmers are getting crushed. And the same thing happened in Trump's first term. And of course, ultimately, Brooke Rollins tries to simply blame Joe Biden.
Not surprising that the driver, of course, no new trade deals during those 4 years, no way to move the food out. So when you look at all of that in total, it's no surprise that what we inherited was an absolute economic mess. But those numbers are coming down. There are a few outliers. And you mentioned Secretary Bessent.
I wish you were more specific. It was a mess that you inherited. Well, under Biden, we sold soybeans to China. Under Trump, thanks to his tariffs, that has stopped, and farmers now need a bailout. Farmers needed a bailout during Trump's first term, and farmers need a bailout again during Trump's second term. She says a couple other things here.
About a couple of those yesterday. We're working on those extremely diligently, but as we're restructuring the entire economy, as we're bringing down inflation, bringing down fuel, bringing down labor, Americans, we believe, will see real relief very, very soon.
You're bringing down fuel, electricity's up 10%, and gas prices are flat. You're bringing down inflation. It's been 2.5 to 3, dating all the way back to 2023, most of that time under Biden. And what the hell does she mean we're bringing down labor? Does that mean that they're reducing wages? These people are genuinely bad at this. And just look at what happened when inflation became the topic. One of the things we learned during Joe Biden's presidency is you can't just insist everything's fine. If people don't believe that, it doesn't work. Here is Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins on CNBC this morning. The topic is inflation. This doesn't go well for her. I'm warning you right now.
Do you see the administration getting down to 2% with inflation, or the Fed, whoever you give it credit to?
Well, I really appreciate the question. The structure of what's happening is incredibly positive. Inflation, the latest numbers, were down to 2.9%. To your point, after having been at a high of 9%, average of 5% in Joe Biden, we're already down to 2.9%.
That was about where it was when Biden left, though.
Well, that's right, but it's continuing to come down. We've seen food prices come down. The average Thanksgiving meal is down about 5%. Now, turkey's down 17%, dinner rolls are down 22%. So we have some really good numbers there. You see the job numbers at an incredible 2.5 million American-born citizens now are employed that weren't under Biden. The mortgage rates are now down about $200 on average per month, and making a lot of progress on housing, which is about 40% of the average Americans.
Listen, it's so easy to tell a bunch of lies. She just told 6 or so lies back to back. And it takes a while to go, wait a second, let's think through that. She says inflation is coming down. And then Joe Kernan goes, well, it's kind of not. It's kind of where it's been. And she goes, yes, but it is coming down a little. Actually, it's ticked up. Inflation has been flat for 2.5 years. It's been between 2.5% and 3%. Uncontroversial, unremarkable. Most of that time Biden was president. She says food prices have come down. They haven't. Now, are dinner rolls down? I don't know. What does that even mean? Is a dinner roll is not a commodity where we can go, well, listen, soy is down and corn is up. Dinner rolls. What size are the rolls? What packaging? What are they, store brand or not? Is this at a hipster bakery, or is this the equivalent of Wonder Bread? What do you mean dinner rolls have come down? She then says the average Thanksgiving meal is cheaper. It's not. This dates back, and for those of you who know this, I'm sorry to do it again. Walmart put something out saying this year's Thanksgiving package is cheaper, but this year's package contains fewer items, and it contains 50% more store brand products, which are cheaper. So it is cheaper in the sense that it's smaller and it is arguably lower quality. She says the jobs numbers are awesome. Well, we have had net job losses many months. Mortgages are down $200 per month. You know, the reality is that since Trump came into office the second time, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is down about 50 basis points, mostly due to Fed cuts. Has nothing to do with Trump. It's a decision of the independent Fed. And then wage growth is the fastest in 60 years. People can look this stuff up. Wage growth isn't even the highest of the last 5 years. Never mind the last 50 years, 60 years. And if you look at a number of the ways that this is looked at, including our wages keeping up with inflation, you see that while wage changes are exceeding inflation over the last few months, it is nowhere near the most rapid expansion over inflation. There was a faster one in the post-COVID era. There was a faster one around 2015. Obama was president. It's lies all the way down, down. Now, I don't know whether if you are a family that is struggling, being told this is going to satisfy you. I hope that it doesn't, because they're just lying to you. We are continuing to do what we can. We've got just a few days left on our food fundraiser. All new membership payments received this month through Thanksgiving go to Feeding America. You get a monthly membership on my website. You get a yearly membership on my website. You get a Substack paid membership. That first payment gets donated to Feeding America. 366 new members so far, over $15,000 donated, funding over 150,000 meals. We did that. You did that. Incredible. Let's take a very quick break, and we'll be back right after this. It is easy to forget how many great family photos you have until you put them all in one place and see them. And our sponsor, Aura Frames, makes the digital frame I've been using in my house for years, and it is one of my favorite gifts to give other people. The Aura frame I gave my dad a few years ago has photos going back so long. He walks by it every day. He loves it. You can preload photos onto the frame before even gifting it. Even if Aura ships it directly, and you can add a personal message as well, then you and the recipient can keep adding photos from anywhere using the Aura app. The app is free and unlimited. You can put as many memories as you want on there. Super easy to use. No surprise, the New York Times named Aura the best digital photo frame. Every frame comes in a premium gift box. It feels like a polished, thoughtful gift. And you'll get $45 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames when you go to auraframes.com and use the code Pakman at checkout. It is Aura's best sale of the year. The link is in the description. We're continuing to look at economic policy under this administration, and I was presented with the thought experiment. Have you ever watched a group of people walk straight into a wall because the guy at the front of the line said, there's no wall here, we can just kind of walk right through it? And this is essentially the economic policy of this administration right now. And as I talked about earlier in the show, they have moved into a communication strategy that it failed completely for Joe Biden and ultimately for Kamala Harris. They are telling people things are simply awesome when people know that they are not. And this is now bigger than the farmers. We talked about farmers and ranchers in the prior couple of segments, and they know that things aren't good. But this now is way bigger than just the farmers. Maybe the one thing worse than gaslighting the entire country about the state of the economy is the being gaslit by people who themselves don't really seem to understand what is going on. And one of those people is Howard Lutnick. Now, I am open to the idea that Lutnick is clueless. I am open to the idea that Lutnick is not clueless. He's just a liar. It's sometimes hard to tell. One of the things that changed when Trump came down that escalator, as he likes to say, is it started to become kind of harder to tell in some cases whether people are lying or clueless. And sometimes it's sort of both. Lutnick is going out there and saying with a straight face, the tariffs are awesome for the country. And the president wants people to realize that. The reason that he's struggling to convince people of that is people who even only pay passing attention to this stuff realize that the tariffs are not good. Listen to Lutnick checking in on Fox News from Brussels, Belgium, saying it's all great stuff. And I have to tell you, even Maria Bartiromo, the Fox News host, seems a little bit skeptical here.
The president is also working on this potential proposal to send out checks of $2,000, dividend checks. And, you know, there's an analyst I spoke with over the weekend who believes that it's unlikely unless we see a second reconciliation package passed in 2026. What's your expectation, Secretary, in terms of a second reconciliation bill or a standalone $2,000 check program to go out?
Look, the tariffs are an American policy. The president wants the American people to understand how great tariffs are for them.
And so one of the ways to prove to the American people how great tariffs are is to have them share in a part of 1 year's income from these tariffs. And that's $2,000 a head, as he said, for people who need the money. You know, he's going to constrain it to people who need the money. And that's exciting. So the president's got that on his desk.
It's so exciting to hear that Donald Trump is going to try to fix the damage he's doing by giving people a little bit of money. And that will make them say, oh, it sounds like the policy is awesome. Trump partially putting out the fire he started proves starting the fire was a really great idea.
I know that's something he wants to achieve, and his legislative team will figure out the best way to do it. But what he's trying to do is make sure people in America understand that tariffs are their policy. It's to make America stronger, and it could also benefit their pocketbook, and that is coming next year from the president.
Yeah, for sure. But the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says that those payments will cost roughly $600 billion each round and increase the deficit by $6 trillion over a decade. The White House preparing, of course, backup plans in case the Supreme Court rules against the president.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Supreme Court thing in a moment. What they are trying to tell us is tariffs, which are the things that raise prices that Trump swore Mexico was going to pay for, and instead, it is, of course, Americans that are paying for that. Lifting that is going to be good, but also having it is good. If the tariffs are so good, why is Trump bragging about saying we're going to lift tariffs on coffee and beef or whatever else the latest thing is? At the same time, they want credit for the policy that sucks, and they want credit for trying to fix the policy that sucks. And we're supposed to all go, yeah, that sounds really good. It's like economic policy via, hostage note or something like that. Now, they started getting into the issue of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to be deciding, are these blanket tariffs even constitutional? Is it even within the power of the presidency? We don't know where it's going to land, but reports from inside the Supreme Court where some of the justices were extraordinarily skeptical of the blanket tariff policy that was being defended by the Trump administration's lawyers. Lutnick goes, no, the Supreme Court's going to be with us on this one. I don't think he paid attention to the oral argument.
Sure, what is the backup plan should the Supreme Court rule against you?
Well, we are going to win the case. It's pretty clear. I sat in the Supreme Court. We're going to win the case. But the fact is the president has all sorts of policies and tools throughout. He's got tariff rules of 232 in my department. He's got 301. He's got 338. Tariffs are going to be a part of this administration's national security and national economic protection of the American people. But we are going to win the case. So you can worry about the backup plan, but you're going to watch the Supreme Court back this president, because this president has proven that he can protect America, and IEPA is protecting America. So
Lutnick may be right. Until the Supreme Court makes a decision, they haven't made a decision. They could find either way. If you listened, and Lutnick says he was there for the oral arguments. Maybe he was there, but I don't know how closely he was paying attention. If you listen to those oral arguments, the justices did not seem particularly convinced by the arguments that were made that Donald Trump gets to do these blanket tariffs and that it's constitutional. But we will see. Again, if the Supreme Court says he didn't even have the right to do this, there is this question of what happens with tariffs that have been paid. There are different legal arguments being made as to whether the money has to be returned. It is crazy. But this is why you don't govern in this way. Trump continuing to see unending loyalty from Lutnick, who said, at least we have Trump in the Oval Office. That's the really great part of what's going on.
What I'm really getting at is China, because I know there's a massive race to win this AI race. And then, of course, we've got this soft war underway with regard to trade with the Chinese Communist Party. Do you think that there's going to be any movement in terms of President Trump allowing those chips to get to China?
Well, the best part about America is we have Donald Trump in the Oval Office. He's listening to everybody. He's going to think about it. He listens to Jensen from NVIDIA, but he listens to all sorts of other executives, and they all bring these opinions together, and Donald Trump's going to decide what chips, if any, we sell to China. That's on the president's desk. He's going to decide how he wants to take it.
So listen, we're getting nothing of substance from Lutnick. Here's the bottom line and my view. about this argument that they are now choosing to make, which is just everything's awesome, everything Trump does is great, Trump's policies are great, and Trump's reversals of those policies are also great, and he needs equal credit for both, and everything he's doing is awesome. None of this is about helping people understand what tariffs do or how they affect prices. If these administration officials were upfront and they said, yes, the tariffs are responsible for prices going up, and we believe that there is a long-term benefit, but you're going to suffer for now. There was like a 3-day period where they sort of said the pain will be worth it, but they've gotten away from that. Now they're just, everything's awesome. The tariffs are awesome. And also please say thank you to our suspension of some of those tariffs. The goal is create the feeling that everything's fine as long as Trump's in charge. Whatever he's doing, it's sort of like a backwards causality. The thing you need to consider is Trump president? If Trump's president, you don't have to even think about what the policies are. And in order for that to work, the average person has to not notice their grocery bill, not notice their rent, not notice their energy costs, not notice what's going on at their job. What you're seeing is the classic move of a political movement that has no more ideas. They don't have solutions. They don't have ideas, so they're selling confidence instead. Trump plays confident. Lutnick goes, we're so confident that Trump is in the Oval Office. That's what really matters here. And it's an attempt to rewrite history. I don't think it's going to work. And part of the evidence is it didn't work for Joe Biden in his last term. Now, there's a deeper philosophical issue here as well, which is they are substituting reality with authority. The reality is we have 6, 7, 8 different indicators that are showing cracks in this economy. Daily life is unaffordable for so many Americans. And it was before Trump came into office as well, but it's gotten a little bit worse. And Trump promised an overnight solution, which he hasn't brought. Lutnick keeps repeating the authority of the president and the authority of the Supreme Court and all. It will all go well because Trump is protecting America with his authority. And it's just not how anything works. It's how cults work at the end of the day. If the leader has his unchallenged authority, then everything must be fine by definition. And underneath it, the undergirding of all of this, the economic arguments are all completely collapsing. Money is shifting out of households and into the government, which Republicans claim to oppose, but they are doing now with the tariff policy. Supply chains get distorted. Retaliation starts. China now makes deals with other countries for soybeans, and the United States is left out. And then the biggest, broadest analysis is authoritarian slide. Leaders who stop explaining what they're doing and declare it's good because I'm doing it and everything's fine. This is one of the final stages of authoritarianism. And maybe the most important point here is there is a gap, a huge gap, a chasm that has opened up between what they are telling us is going on and where people are. People feel that things are one way. And Lutnick and Brooke Rollins and Trump himself, they're telling us that things are a different way. It doesn't work to tell people that the economy is awesome when every single day they see something different. I believe ultimately reality will win, and Trump is going to have to figure out what sort of messaging might save the House of Representatives for Republicans in 2026, if it is even savable. Elon Musk, by accident, confirmed something that many have been warning about for years. Elon Musk quietly rolled out a new transparency feature on Twitter called About This Account. And About This Account shows you where is the account physically located, how many times have they changed their username, when they downloaded the app, and basically, are there red flags attached to this account? And so after this feature was quietly rolled out by X, people started looking at the major MAGA influencer accounts, the ones that push the stuff of Trump's talking points and flooding the replies and saying everything is so good and thanks. Patriot Dad from Nebraska loves the tariffs, this sort of thing. Accounts that are boosting these people are based in Macedonia. They're based in India. These Eric Trump fan accounts, Kai Trump News, Caroline Levitt News, these sort of like soft propaganda accounts that are in the replies, they are based in other places. Another example, here's Gina Patterson. This is America. We drink beer, own guns, and speak English. If you don't like it, move. It turns out that account is based in Africa. That's unusual. Here's another one, MAGA Nation. with, I believe this one has like 300,000 followers. This one's based in Eastern Europe. What a surprise. What a shock. So it turns out that based on what this feature has revealed, a lot of Trump's online support that we go, damn, I just posted about whatever on Twitter and I've got 30 Patriot dads in my replies. Who are these people? It turns out that some of these accounts aren't based in the United States. They aren't who they claim to be. And it was Elon Musk's own transparency tool that exposed them. Now, you may remember that for years, we have been reporting on the fact that a lot of these right-wing influence campaigns appear to be run from overseas. And the people who have pointed that out most loudly, they're called hysterical. Oh, you're seeing Russians under every rock or whatever. Elon pushes out an update to Twitter, and all of a sudden, Russia, Nigeria, India, Macedonia, Eastern Europe, Thailand, South Asia. Now, the funniest part about all of this is that it happened because Elon turned the lights on. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's possible that some of these are glitches. Like, some of these don't make any sense whatsoever. And so I'm still waiting to get kind of like the final analysis of what this feature is exposing and how accurate it is. But it is extraordinarily, extraordinarily funny. And maybe the funniest part of all of it is that as this is being exposed here by Elon's feature, we learned that the 28-point, quote, peace plan that we're going to report more on tomorrow that seems to be getting us closer to an agreement between Russia and Ukraine. The 28-point peace plan is apparently so overwhelmingly good for Russia. It includes Ukraine giving up territory that was stolen from it, all this stuff. The 28-point peace plan is so good for Russia that even Trump administration officials are now being asked, did Russia write this thing? And when Kristen Welker asked Scott Bessent, did Russia write the peace plan? He doesn't deny it. He just goes, I have no information about that.
You just talked about the president's peace deals. Let's talk about Ukraine. U.S. lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, Ukrainian officials who I've spoken to, say the peace plan for Russia and Ukraine, as written, only benefits Russia. Let me ask you simply, Mr. Secretary, was this 28-point plan written by Russia?
I have no information on that, Kristen, but I can tell you, I am the highest ranking U.S. official to have visited Ukraine. I went last February. And when I went last February, I went with an economic cooperation agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine. President Zelensky pushed back against it. The same people you're just talking about there pushed back against it. Mainstream media pushed back against it. You know what? We did it 3 months later, and now it is the centerpiece for the Ukrainian economy that this agreement is even funding.
I'm hearing, yes, this is Putin's plan. We are going to do a deep dive of this plan tomorrow. It is hard to look at this plan and see it as anything short of a Russian propaganda document. And the fact that Bessent doesn't go, no, of course we don't allow one side to just write the peace plan. Kristen, Bessent just goes, don't know about it one way or the other. This foreign influence campaign is having way more success than anybody in this administration is willing to acknowledge. We have a phenomenal bonus show for you today. We'll talk about a new framework to fix Obamacare, supposedly. I'm skeptical. Eric Swalwell is entering California gubernatorial race. And we will talk about Democrats looking at ranked choice voting for primaries. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Get instant access by signing up at joinpakman.com.